My name is Mark Brigman, so I'm going to be stepping through what we call the SPLM, or the Strategic Partner Leadership Model webinar. And so this is one of the frameworks that we have here at Partnernomics that we've developed. And if you have any questions, I want you to make sure as we go through this webinar, please write down those questions, and we're going to have a Q&A session here in the end. But just as we kick things off, there's four things I want to make sure that we walk away with, or that I hit on during our time together today. And the first is, the 5 reasons that partnerships fail. And we're specifically going to be honing in on the operations of partnerships. So we know that the end-to-end process, the A to Z process for partnering is vast, and there's a lot of different opportunities for failure. But for this webinar, we're specifically going to hone in on the operation side. And if that doesn't necessarily make sense just yet, give me a few minutes. We'll step into that, and I'll paint that picture much more clear. The next thing is what we call the ultimate playbook for this operation side. How do we operationalize partnerships? So there's really 2 different components that we're going to learn about. One of those is our team and how we can optimize our team. And then the second half of that is, after we execute partnerships, we want to optimize those partnerships. How do we do that? What does it look like? And more specifically, what is a framework that we can use? That's what we're going to hit on today. A couple different things that we can do today. We could literally do today to get started down this path. From our trainers, our coaches, our consultants that we have, all of us share this mantra of knowledge is useless unless it comes with action and specifically results, unless we get something out of it. So I'm going to share a couple different things that you can do today. Hopefully I'll plant some seeds with you, but a couple different things that you can do today to get started to significantly improve the proficiency of your partnership outcomes. And then last but certainly not least, stick with me to the end. I'm going to get you a $150 value. I'm going to give you a gift. If this is something that you're interested in moving forward with, I want to give you a $150 gift to get you down that path. So make sure you stick with us to see that at the end. All right, so a couple quick housekeeping items. And as I had mentioned, this is a live webinar. So if you would, go ahead and stay muted, keep muted. That way so others will have an ability to hear it. But then whenever we get to the end, I'm going to do a live Q&A. So any questions that you have, we're going to get those answered for you. So please, as we go through the content, write down any questions that you have, and then we'll get those answered for you at the end. Also, we're recording this. So if you are interested in getting a video link, a link to this video, you want to share with some folks on your team or some other people in your professional network, please feel free to shoot us an email, reach out to us. You can do that either from our website, or at the end, we'll give some contact information, and let us know that you want that link, and we'd be glad to provide that to you. Also, as I had mentioned, there's a couple different topics that we're going to cover, right? So it's 5 reasons of why partnerships fail. And then from an operations perspective, how can we operationalize both our teams and our partnerships? Now I'm going to give you some actions that you can do today. And then again, at the end, I want to give you a $150 gift. If this is something that you're interested in moving in on and want to find ways to develop more successful partnerships, we want to help you get down that path. So this webinar, if you're anything like me, you're kind of asking yourself, is this a good use of my time? Is this where I need to be? What am I going to get out of this webinar? Is it for me? And I'm going to ask you a couple different questions, and if you answer yes to them, you're definitely in the right spot. The first question is, do you manage strategic partnerships? And also, kind of part B to this question is, do you manage strategic partnering teams? If you answered yes to these, there's a really good chance you're in the right place, where you're going to definitely get access to some insights that will help move you and your team further down the road. But to the flip side, if you're in product management, you don't interface with third-party companies. If you're in a traditional sales role and you take a very transactional approach, then potentially this really partnering specific webinar may not be the best use of your time. Let me throw a couple other questions at you. So would you like to build partnerships that allow you to go faster, whether it's doing that due diligence to get to yes or no faster? If you would like to figure out how to run your processes more efficiently, this is definitely a webinar for you. If you want to have your partnerships be more predictable, less landmines, less gotchas, less surprises, we're going to share a framework with you that will definitely provide that benefit for you and your team. And finally, profitability. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? Is those net revenues that we develop and we pull in from our strategic partnerships. Whether it's figuring out ways to extract more value, extract more revenue, and or simultaneously reduce our costs. If you're looking to build more profitable partnerships, this is definitely the right place for you. So I want to start off with a couple different testimonials, right? It's easy for me to sit here and talk to you about Partnernomics, what we do, and why we're so great. But I want to let some of our clients kind of share their story or their the value that they receive from working with us just real quick. So this is Steve Whiting. Steve is a VP with CenturyLink. You're probably familiar with CenturyLink. They're a Fortune 500 telecommunications company. And Steve said that Partnernomics was not only brilliantly illustrates the unique benefits that strategic partnerships can bring to bear, but it also provides a clear framework for establishing and leading those partnerships to success. I'll share another one from Kyle Malott. Kyle actually recently retired, but Kyle was the COO of a $4 billion company here in the Midwest called DST Systems. And he was responsible for their financial services segment. But Kyle said that Partnernomics will ensure two different things: a much higher percentage of successful partnerships, and equally important, getting to know faster and avoiding all the costs of deals that never should have been attempted really in the first place. And then last year, we've got Stan. So Stan is the president of Atlantic Food Distributors. And Stan said that Partnernomics gave us the knowledge, tools, and processes to confidently and methodically execute partnerships. It's a must-have for 21st century business leaders. And we really enjoyed working with these three different companies and working with these folks in the past, and appreciate their testimonials. But I just want to share those with you as we step out here. As much as I hate to talk about myself, I know that as I sit through different webinars, I like to learn about the presenter, their background, the perspectives that they're bringing in, so I can use that as I'm understanding the content that they're providing. So I'm going to provide a little bit a background about myself, just to give you a glimpse of where the content that we've developed and where this webinar, this content's coming from. So I'm the founder and CEO of Partnernomics, and I started Partnernomics in 2014. Man, this world of strategic partnering has been an absolute passion, really an obsession of mine for a number of years. And Partnernomics was really just kind of a dream come true for me to be able to professionally do and follow the passion that I have. And since 2014, we've had hundreds of clients. I think we're up to 56 different countries that we have clients in across the globe. Man, the internet's a really powerful thing. But to think back 6 years ago, that we would have clients in 56 countries, it's almost unbelievable. It's really been awesome to see it develop. So I am a kind of a mission statement guy. And for Partnernomics, our mission is to make strategic partnering become a core competency for every single client, so that it results in exponential growth for all. The thing that I really love about strategic partnerships is it allows us to get that multiplier effect. You know, the proverbial 1 + 1 = 3 that we typically say. But partnerships, when they're done correctly, everyone gets the benefit, and they get the benefit significantly. But that begs the question: what is the difference between doing partnerships right and doing them suboptimally? And really, that's what I've dedicated the past 10 years of my life researching and providing these insights. And then the last almost 6 years now since we've launched Partnernomics. So a couple more things on me real quick. I'll kind of crank through this. Over 20 years of strategic partnering experience. And I got really lucky, really blessed in the late 90s to start my career with Sprint. At the time, I think we had 85,000 employees. And so I had opportunities to be involved in some of the biggest partnerships that really in technology that the world has ever seen. Had chances to do partnerships and build products, everything from turn-by-turn driving, navigation, Wi-Fi in flight and aircraft now, some deals that we did with Boeing, with Sprint TV. I ran all the Sprint TV initiatives that allowed TV to come to mobile phones for the first time, which a lot of people, even VPs, thought that would never happen. It's amazing to see how much video, actually there's more video consumed on mobile phones now than on television sets or actually on PCs. But before I ended my 13-year career at Sprint, I got to manage a strategic partnership with Ericsson. It was a 7-year, $5 billion relationship. Yes, billion-dollar relationship. And from that massive, massive strategic partnership, I got to see a lot of different angles into partnerships and partnership operations and kind of the do's and don'ts. And that's really what set me down this path of trying to help organizations become significantly better at building and managing strategic partnerships. And so as I sat down and started to work with these different business leaders going back 6-7 years ago, I wanted to put some of those insights into a book, into a collection that we could share with people. And in 2017, we launched Partnernomics, the book that shares a lot of different insights for people. And one of those insights is this SPLM, the Strategic Partner Leadership Model Framework that I'm going to be sharing specifically in this webinar. And if anyone's interested, Partnernomics can be purchased from Amazon or anywhere that you buy business books today. And here at the end, I love to talk, especially about strategic partnerships. I've really been lucky, been blessed to be an international speaker from Europe all the way to Silicon Valley and working with different venture capital firms. But anytime somebody gives me the opportunity to jump in front of groups, whether it's one person or 10,000, I am there. If I get to talk about strategic partnerships, I will do it until the last person leaves. So that's what we do whenever we're addicted into this discipline. All right, so enough about me. Let's focus on the content and let's focus on you and helping you extract some solid value out of our time together today. So the focus for today. So as we think about strategic partnerships and this world, this art and science of partnering, we think of it in like two different hemispheres, right? Think of a globe. And on one side of that, we have the pre-contract signature parts. So what goes into that? What's all the strategy and the plan and why we're going to be developing this partnering initiative in the first place? Then we start to identify those partners. We perform our due diligence. We kind of start to score those partners against each other and see which ones may be a fit. We continue to bargain and negotiate different terms. And then finally, we have the line in the sand, the go, no-go decision. And we have to decide, is this a relationship that we want to execute or not? Right? And there's a lot of different components that goes into that process. It's super, super important. A lot of our framework addresses that, but that's different. It's a different framework than what we're talking about. Today, what I'm specifically talking to you about is an operations system. And so just like how your phone, your Android, your iPhone, just like your computer, it has an operating system, strategic partnering teams need to have an operating system as well. So what does an operating system do? Well, think of it as like an air traffic controller that locates all the planes and decides who gets to land, when they get to land, which runway they land on. An operating system does the same way, does the same thing. It's the rules and the tools and the processes, the procedures that you follow in order to maximize output, in order to maximize the benefit that you get. And so as we think about an operating system or kind of the mega playbook for our strategic partnering team, it has two different components. The first thing that we need to do is build and optimize our strategic partnering team itself. And the next thing we need to do is set a framework in place where we can most effectively manage our strategic partnerships so that we get the results that we want. We need to have this kind of ultimate, this Uber playbook for our teams so that we can truly maximize the profitability for each of our partnerships. So I want to level set with you real quick and just share some different statistics about kind of this world of partnering in 2020, in this year that we live in. So KPMG recently did a study, and they found that 38% of CEOs say that growth through strategic partnerships is their absolute number one strategy for growth. Right? So if you think about ways that we can grow our business and we distill it down to the three most simplest building blocks, there's organic, which means we're going to kind of go it alone. The second is through acquisition, which means equity and financial investments are going to take place, right? Those are the mergers, the acquisitions, the different joint ventures that we might find ourselves getting into. But the third way is partnering, strategic partnering. And according to the KPMG study, they interviewed hundreds and hundreds of CEOs across the country, and 38% of them said that their number one strategy for growth is partnering. And this 38% is actually up from 23% last year. It increased 15% in just 1 year. It is amazing what's happening now in this world of strategic partnering. The next statistic I want to share with you comes from LinkedIn. And this really just kind of reinforces this first point from the KPMG study. 360% increase. There's been a 360% increase in quote unquote partnership managers that's been hired in the United States over the past 5 years. So not only do CEOs want to grow through partnerships, but LinkedIn is corroborating this by saying there's been a 3.6x, almost a 4x increase in the quantity of partnerships that's been formed here in the United States over the past 5 years. The next study here is from the CMO Council. So the CMO Council, they surveyed thousands of different C-level officers across the country, and they found that 85% of these executives say that strategic partnerships are important, at least important. Some say essential to their growth, but 85% said it's at least important to their growth strategy. But only 33% of them claim that they have the processes and the know-how to effectively execute their partnerships. Right? Essentially, they're saying the 33% is going to be their success rate, is another way to look at that. And what's really interesting and really, I don't know if we can call it ironic, but that's essentially what the success rate is. So to look at this from the flip side, there's been dozens and dozens of studies done over the past decade looking at partnership failure, but upwards of 70%, and some studies say even 75%, but upwards of 70% of third-party partnerships, right? So these strategic partnerships between different organizations, 70% of them end in failure within 2 years. So this begs the question, why in the world are so many different partnerships failing? What can we do as business leaders to improve this percentage? And what I want you to think about is, so if 70% is the failure rate, well, what would it look like if your business was the opposite, was the inverse? What if your success rate was 70 or 80 or 90%? What would that difference be for your company? Well, at a minimum, it would be a massive competitive advantage, right? Look at all of the costs. Going back to the comment, the testimonial from Kyle Malat, the Partnernomics framework is designed to help you also get to know much more efficiently and to not spend the time and the money executing those deals that never should have been done in the first place. So as I had mentioned to you, we view this world of partnering in two different hemispheres. One is this pre-contract signature piece that is not the focus for today, but the other, this operating system, which is the focus for today. And this operating system is broken into two pieces. And the first component is the team. How can we set up and structure our teams so that we can maximize our opportunities for success? And then after we have that solid team in place, now we're going to use that pre-contract signature process. We're going to put some partners in place. We're going to execute some agreements. And now we need to manage those agreements to get the results out of them. And that's where the operation system then hits the partners. So what do we need to do? Number one, whatever the system is, we need to find a partner operating system that we like, that we believe in, and we need to adopt it. We got to use it, right? We got to use it, and we've got to optimize it over time. The vast majority of companies, I would venture to say close to 95% of the organizations that we start to work with, they do not have a true playbook. They do not have a partner operating system. All companies have processes, but just having processes does not mean that you have an operating system. That's what I want to share with you today. That's what the strategic partner leadership model is. It's an operating system that you can adopt and put into your company. So what does it look like? So it has 6 different elements. And the first element is vision. So the vision component has three different elements to that. The first is vision. So what is a vision? A vision is the long-term purpose. We like to call it the 10, 15, or 20-year North Star. What does that finish line look like for your strategic partnering team? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What's the big picture thing that your team is ultimately trying to accomplish? And by having a vision, or a vision statement, if you will, that will make it crystal clear for everybody, starting with on your team, and then eventually going to your partners. It will communicate that to everybody so they know exactly what you are trying to accomplish. Next, we have the mission, right? The mission statement. So what is a mission? A mission is a shorter term purpose. Generally speaking, it's kind of a 2 to 3 year purpose that really drives our day-to-day activity. Earlier in this webinar, I shared with you Partnernomics mission statement, right? So our mission is to make strategic partnering become a core competency for every one of our clients, so that results in exponential growth for all. Okay, so that is what drives what we do on a daily basis. And then third, we have the core values. So core values are anywhere between 3 to 5 words that really describes kind of the DNA of everybody that's in your team. For Partnernomics, it's honor, courage, commitment, and economic value. And so those 4 words kind of drive everybody that's on our team and in our company as we're making decisions. This vision element, to distill this down, really this is culture, right? This is an organization's culture, a company's culture, whatever kind of that denominator is that we're talking about, but really it's culture. And culture absolutely matters, not just within your team, but culture also matters with those that you're partnering with. Have you ever had a job where you had worked on a team or worked in a company that had a poor culture, had a horrible culture? Wasn't it absolutely brutal? Well, we've all done that. And by kind of setting that very intentional culture within our team, now we can also start to partner with companies that are aligned with our culture. And that is one thing that will significantly help increase your probability of success. So earlier we were talking about the 5 different ways that partnerships fail, or 5 reasons that they fail from an operations perspective. The first reason is misalignment of culture. Okay, so we got to make sure that we do that from a team perspective as well as with our partners. So next, we have teams. So what is the teams element? So in the teams element, here we're talking about, we start with the 3 core traits of what we call great PDLs. So what's a PDL? It's a partner development leader. It's a biz dev professional. It's a strategic partnering professional. It's an alliance manager, whichever terms you use within your company. PDL is a partner development leader. That's those folks on our team that manage and lead these partnerships to success. So there are 3 core traits. Well, what are they? Well, over the past 10 years, I've done a significant amount of research in this world of strategic partnering and strategic partnering success. I've had the opportunity to interview hundreds of different executives from Fortune 500s all the way down. And at the end of a research study that I did specifically looking at, what are these 3 core traits, we got them. We grabbed them, and we had consensus that we finally had them. So what are they? Well, number 1, to be entrepreneurial. Great partner development leaders are very, very entrepreneurial. Second, they're influencers. they have an ability to get people to say yes. They have an ability to share a vision and to get people to take action, and that are motivated to take action and help achieve that cause. Third, what would you think it is? The third is emotional intelligence, or we say EQ, or the emotional quotient. But having high emotional intelligence, kind of that sixth sense, it's really what helps people build these strong relationships that helps them influence, which helps them get results through their very entrepreneurial approach. So it's looking at these three core traits of every great PDL, and then how do we foster and nurture these three traits? How do we further develop these three traits within people that's on our teams? The next thing we'll talk about within the teams element is the team's structure. So there's a couple different ways that we structure teams within partnership deals, and understanding how to structure teams and then structuring correctly is absolutely key. The first way that we do this is we call the Lone Ranger. And then, so that's where we have a professional that really handles deals all the way from A to Z. They go out, they find these different partners, they execute those partnerships, and they manage them all the way to success, all the way to the end, perpetually. The second way that we structure teams is what we call the hunter-farmer. So this is kind of a two-stage approach that's using two different capabilities within folks, within their toolbox, so to speak. So where you have a hunter that does the upfront work, and then you have a farmer that handles the post-contract signature portions. So the SPLM framework walks through what these two structures are, how to use them, and when to use them, and the value that comes from structuring your partnership teams correctly. Onboarding. So many times we do not onboard our PDLs or our partner development leaders correctly. So what do we need to do? We need to have a solid onboarding process. And the SPLM framework within the teams element shares a lot of different success practices of how we can make sure that this happens. Conflict management. We spend some time talking about conflict management. A lot of times just within just our general culture itself sees conflict as a very negative thing. But truth be told, conflict is neutral. Conflict isn't neither good nor bad. It's how we deal with conflict. And the more innovative, the more creative, the more truly strategic our partnerships are, the more conflict we can actually expect. As we're trying to do things that have never been done before, right? That's what innovation is. As we're doing more innovative things, we're going to be having more opposition, more questions, more opportunities for conflict, but we need to be able to work through that conflict in a very productive, a very constructive way. And that's what a part of the teams element we'll talk about. And then finally, we have the personality profiles. So we've all heard of DISC and Myers-Briggs and Colby and all of these different assessments. What's important is to understand different personality types and what influences people. So for example, we may have somebody that is very introverted. You may have other people that are very extroverted. Well, they communicate in very different ways. You may have maybe working with somebody either in your team or on your partner's team, and they are very analytical, and they want reams and reams and reams of data to analyze before they can make decisions. Well, you need to communicate with those people in very different ways than somebody who's a quick start, for example. They may only want a couple different facts, they trust their gut feel, and they're ready to make a decision and move. Well, by understanding different personalities, we can figure out how to more effectively manage these relationships and influence them to success. This is where part of that speed comes in. So what is the second reason that a lot of partnerships fail? Well, you've guessed it, the mismanagement of teams, not understanding how to build teams and the different attributes of great partner development leaders on our teams. So what is the third element of the SPLM? It's goals, right? So goals tell us if we win or lose. It's the goalpost that we put on the field. It's the way that we score points. So the first piece of this is common goal setting mistakes. It is very common for companies to have goals, but it is not common for companies to set good goals and to use goals and goal setting and goal management in the correct way. So the goals element of the SPLM framework steps business leaders through a very structured, disciplined, methodical way to not only create goals, to set those goals, but also to manage the goals to make sure that they are achieved. So what are some of the different things that we talk about? What are some of the different topics? Top down versus OKR, right? So really it's top down versus bottom up, if you will. And there's ways that companies should use both of these different approaches. And the goals element talks about these approaches in detail and gives you some insights of how specifically to implement them within your teams. The 3-1-3-3 method, man, this saves a ton of time. But goals really need to be about focus. And the 3-1-3-3 method steps you through kind of these 4 elements to make sure that you are setting goals that have the highest probability of success, but most importantly, they keep your team focused. They make it really simple, but keep it really, really focused for your team. And then finally, the SMART approach, right? So we've all probably heard about the SMART approach before, and we've used it. This is where we have specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and then T is going to be the time bound. So we've all used kind of this SMART approach before, but it doesn't mean that we've necessarily used it right. So we have a lot of different content in there where we talk about the SMART approach and then why and how we could use the SMART approach to help us. Next, we're going to step into the 4th element. The 4th element is metrics. So metrics is all about data. And we start by talking about what data we need to track. So which metrics do we need to track? How do we select these metrics? How many metrics should we select? There's a full framework around metric selection and the use of metrics to help give us insights as to how we are performing as a team, but then also how our partners are performing. Leading and lagging indicators. So we probably all heard about KPIs, right? These key performance indicators. Well, we can take that down kind of a layer deeper. KPIs, there's 2 different forms of indicators. There's leading and lagging. So what are they and how are they used? The metrics element spends a lot of time going into the leading and lagging indicators. Predictive and influenceable. So what does this mean? Well, we want to select metrics that are predictable and also metrics that we can influence as team members. So if we can figure out ways to push those levels, those values forward, we know that we're going to be aligned for success. If we're in baseball, why do we train? We train because it makes us better. We know the more time that we spend in a batting cage, we're going to have a higher batting average. So that's what the metrics element helps us do, is to understand how we can maximize our opportunities for success. And finally, number 4, building the scoreboards. Every person, every team, every partnering initiative, and every partner, they need to have a scoreboard. The scoreboard tells you if you are winning or losing. You can look at it at any second and find out if you're winning or losing. Unfortunately, most companies do not build solid scoreboards, so they never know if they're winning. That is what we do to build engagement, both from our teams as well as from each of our partnerships. The metrics element goes into how to build these scoreboards and do it in a way that will motivate action. Next, we're ready for number 5, processes. And if you are like most other business leaders, the term process probably makes you cringe a little bit. And that is because most processes are bad. They actually keep us, they hold us up from doing what we want to do, and that is just execute our partnerships and get results. There's a difference between having processes and having good processes. And so the processes element starts off by talking about some of the common mistakes that are made by building processes and what we can do to avoid those landmines, what we need to do to really streamline processes within our partnering teams and our partnering organization. Every partnering team needs to have multiple core, what we call core partnering processes. One of those is having an operations process, right? Which is what the strategic partner leadership model lays out. So the processes element shares what these core processes are, and then it goes a layer deeper to share 24 key procedures that each team needs to have. So for example, within your team, you're going to have a hiring process. Okay, so then what are the supporting procedures? What are those tasks that your team needs to execute in order to do it well? A contract negotiating process. Then what are the underlying procedures that you can do, that you need to do in order to effectively negotiate and execute those partnerships? That's what those core procedures are going to share with you. And then finally, the processes element also talks about PRMs, right? So if you're not familiar with a PRM, it's a partner relationship management system. So a lot of us are very familiar with CRMs, customer relationship management systems, and we use them all the time, right? Everything from HubSpot to Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. There's a lot of these big CRM systems. Well, the thing with the CRM is your customers never get to come into that system, right? It's because the information is about the customers, and it's how your team can better support them. Well, a PRM is a system that's specifically designed for your partners, and your partners have access into it. And it's how you manage this relationship and how you manage information and data with each of your partners. So as you see right now, these 5 different elements that we've showed so far with the strategic partner leadership model, every solid PRM system in some way is going to help you manage each of these different elements. So that processes element within the SPLM framework, it's also going to share a lot of those success practices with what a PRM system is and how you can use it to significantly improve your results. And then last but certainly not least, really the thing that matters, getting results. So how do we get results out of our strategic partnerships? Well, the results element is focused on going from strategy, right, this partnering idea, all the way to successful execution, getting those results that you want. And it shares the success practices for getting those significant results from your company. And so this kind of has us hit pause periodically and take a retrospective, kind of an introspective look back at our performance. And it's where we review how we're doing. What are our goals? Did we accomplish our goals? How are we doing as a team? Are we developing? Are we moving in the right place? Do we have the right metrics? Are we accomplishing our metrics? It gives us a chance to just look critically at our performance, at our results, and then to make adjustments, make tweaks, and then continue to step forward in the process. But it specifically outlines different methodologies for individual team members, our team itself, our strategic partnering team itself, as well as each of our individual partners. It's a way for us to evaluate success, evaluate those results, and then make adjustments and then continue to move forward. Okay, so that was a quick run through of the SPLM framework. What I want to share with you real quickly is a picture of kind of the globe, right? The full toolbox that Partnernomics can provide to you as you're continuing down your career to build more successful, more profitable partnerships. The Partnernomics framework, this Partnernomics toolbox, is actually designed in 3 different sets, and it's actually 3 different courses. We've actually broke it into 3 different courses. The first is what we call Partnering Foundations, and really that kind of sets the core principles, the practices, the definitions, the terms, the strategies, the tools that we need in order to make any one of our partnerships successful. So we start with the Partnernomics Partnering Foundations course. And then next we have the Strategic Partner Leadership Model course, right? This is the 6-element course of the content that we had just stepped through. So this is course number 2 or tool number 2 in the full Partnernomics toolbox. And then what we recommend is tool number 3 is the 5 phases course. This is the 5-phase partnering process. And so this is the process where it starts with building the strategy, building the plan for your organization to execute partnerships. How do we engage, step 2, how do we engage different potential partners, these partner candidates, as we call them? Well, what is a due diligence process? How do we communicate with them? Topics such as term sheets. How do we step down this process and do it very methodically so that we maximize our opportunities for success? Step 3, we negotiate deals. There's a full framework of how we negotiate those deals. 4, closing the deal. So now this is kind of the moment of truth, the go, no-go decisions on those. And if we say yes, obviously we execute the partnership, and now it's time to operationalize it. It's time to make that partnership successful and to get results out of it. And then again, that loops back to the SPLM framework. So as we had mentioned earlier in the webinar, that the SPLM framework, that Strategic Partner Leadership Model framework, it's an operating system. And that operating system has 2 different components. One is our team and operationalizing our team. And the second is operationalizing the partnerships. And that's what we saw here from the 5 phases approach. So it's a big toolbox. This is just, 12 different components that we share in there. But there's literally dozens of different tools that come in the full Partnernomics system that companies can utilize, again, to significantly help them create more profitable partnerships. And the full system, we just call it the strategic partnering system that we brought here from Partnernomics. Okay, so as we start to wrap up here a little bit, let's talk about next steps. And so what can you do today? What can you literally do today if you are ready to start moving your team or yourself individually down a path where you can get greater results from your strategic partnerships? Well, the first thing that we recommend for everyone is to complete the Partner Operations Assessment. And so this assessment is specifically geared toward the Strategic Partner Leadership Model, this framework that I just shared with you. And so it's a 30-question assessment. It's only $39, but I want to offer something special to you guys, to the folks that are on this webinar today. And so I want to give you a coupon code. It's POA, right, as in Partner Operations Assessment, POA 80. And this will get you an 80% off discount for this very, very telling, very powerful assessment. It's 30 questions. It's going to ask you 5 questions based upon each of these 6 different elements. And then after you complete the assessment, it's going to give you a score for each of those 6 elements, and then it will give you a composite score for the total. And then you'll also be able to see how your organization, or how your answers, how you stack up to other organizations across the country. So you'll be able to see how you stack up. And so definitely recommend that you do that. And it's, I think, just over $7 after you put the discount in there. Next, for the first 10 companies, right, for the first 10 people, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your results and to build a strategy, whether that includes working with Partnernomics and our coaches or not. I want to give you an opportunity to set up a meeting with me specifically for 30 minutes, and we'll talk about your assessment results and give you some strategies that you can start to implement immediately to help your team get more significant results out of your partnerships. If you're ready to go to the next step, if you're kind of ready to jump in and really see more of what the SPLM model has and what it recommends for you to do, we encourage you to enroll in the course, the SPLM, the Strategic Partner Leadership Model course. If you go to our website at partnernomics.com, you'll simply see it there in the courses section with our other courses. But enroll in that and jump in and get started today. It's 21 lessons that will take you all the way through the SPLM framework. And then we also have thought leader interviews with a bunch of different CEOs, Ivy League business professors, New York Times bestsellers. We have these interviews with these different business leaders that provide these gold nuggets, as I call them, but these insights that will help you, that they're specifically geared toward those 6 elements, but just to help give you the insights to maximize these partnerships that you're putting in place. And finally, if you say, Mark, definitely interested in this. I'm a busy guy, and I want to make sure that I am understanding this framework correctly and that we are implementing it in the most efficient way possible. But at Partnernomics, we also offer a coaching program. It's a 6-week coaching program, and we will step you through. We will take time every week. We'll jump on Zoom videos just like this one. We'll jump on Zoom videos, and we will methodically step through each of those 6 different elements of the SPLM framework and help you implement that system. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, I would love to make sure to engage with you and get those answered for you.